I heard you once say, we know how to make money, we just don't know how to spend it. Black people blame white people for 95% of our problems and still spend 97% of our money with them. Can you elaborate on that comment, please?
That's exactly, we're real close to the quote. I think I said that we've got dollars, but what we need is cents. You know, when you count the mathematics and look at black people as a nation, there's 233 independent nations on the earth. Now, out of the 233 independent nations, black people at $1.3 trillion are the eighth richest nation in the world. Yet, we don't have anything in our community that we can call our own. So by the simple fact that we're the eighth richest nation on the earth and we don't have our own educational system, don't feed ourselves, grow our own food, is a sign that we got dollars, but we need some sense. So I said we blame the white man for 95% of our problems, but we still spend 97% of our money with them. That's bass accurate, if you count that.
And what's wild to me is that, like, I just observe life as it is. So every city I go to, I'm here in Indianapolis, right? And when I look around, I see black people suffering. But then on the other hand, people tell me black people are doing great. And sometimes I think they distort their position for the masses of the people.
Well, the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad made this revolutionary observation about how to properly judge the rise or the fall of us as a nation. He said, no one individual can rise above the condition of their people. So you never should judge the individual few poster child mannequins in the storehouse of democracy's window, Negroes that have made it to justify that we have made it as a people. We do have $1.3 trillion in money. That's income though, and that's not wealth. So when the math is calculated, black people only possess less than 2% of the wealth of the United States of America. Income and wealth are two different concepts. Income is the money you earn by exchange of your time or the sale of a good product or service. But wealth is when you exchange that money for something that either keeps value or increases in value over time. Black people, we are the leaders in unnecessary spending. We buy stuff we don't need from people that we don't like to impress people we don't know. And at the end of the math of the equation, we end up having nothing but a whole bunch of name brand stuff, but never businesses that we can pass down to our children or real estate that increases or keeps its value over time. So we've got income, but we don't have the wealth. That's why I said we've got dollars, but we need some sense. Out of that $1.3 trillion, Brother Lynn, do you know that we spend $23 billion a year on clothes? $11 billion a year on furniture, $3.2 billion on keeping up with the latest cell phone that came out, $46 billion on cars, $60 billion on legal and illegal drugs, $32 billion dressing up the outside of our head. But when it comes to dressing up the inside of our mind, which is the purchase of books, only $300 million is purchased in books. That would be fine if God said in Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed from a lack of sew-ins, or my people are destroyed from a lack of temple tapers or phase, but my people are destroyed from a lack of knowledge. So we should be investing more in the building up of the mind and building up of our character, getting the sense that we need to go with those dollars, so that when we marry our wealth with some wisdom, we can actually leave something behind for our children and our children's children that they can call their own.
I'm glad you said that. I have to put myself out there before I criticize anyone, right? When I was younger, based on my environment, it's a learned behavior. I'm ashamed to say this now publicly, but I thought I had to spend money. I really thought I had to spend money. Like if I had $100 in my pocket, I thought if I went out, I had to spend $100. I'm not sure if you had that mind frame younger on.
Well, I did too. You know, unfortunately, black people's brains have been hardwired where we connect happiness to spending. We have to disconnect the wire in our brain from happiness and spending and take from happiness to saving and happiness to investing. Do you know that rich people stay rich because they pretend to be poor? And poor people stay poor because they pretend to be rich. We spend money. We literally are trying to buy respect, and we go broke trying to look rich. So when the math is done, I was talking to a brother in our barbershop one day, and I was telling him that when you have enough on the inside, you don't need the stuff on the outside to make you feel like you are something. And the brother, look, he verified the position. He said, you know what? I'm gonna tell you the truth. Me and my guys was out. We went to out of town, and we was on our way to go to the club. And whenever we started getting dressed, my partner realized that he had left his jewelry. And the minute that he seen that he didn't have his jewelry, I noticed that he got sad. And he didn't even go with us. Next day, I went down to the counter at the hotel room, and he was opening up a package. He had somebody overnight his jewelry to them. And when he grabbed the jewelry out, he took his watch, his chain, and put it on and told me, hey, I'm back. But he never went nowhere. Problem is that he felt a sense of worth from what he put on the outside of himself. But the real sense of worth doesn't come from the jewel you put on your finger, your wrist, or your necklace. The real sense of worth comes from the jewel you put in your mind with knowledge, wisdom, understanding, discipline, and character. So that we got it all twisted, and just like you, we had our brains hardwired improperly, where we connected the wire from happiness to spending instead of to saving and investing. And unfortunately, we have outsourced our happiness. We're looking for happiness to come from other people and other things in the outside material world, when the truth is happiness is an inside job.
I wanted to bring up one of the issues I have with everyone speaking about financial literacy. They break down the theories of things to invest in, but they don't talk about the internal things that needs to be done for you to be financially responsible.
So financial literacy is learning the alphabet. Financial literacy is learning phonics. You're learning how to sound out words. But when we were in school, they had another part of all the tests called reading comprehension, which means that I know how to properly dissect, discern, and make decisions based off the information in front of me. So we need the ABCs, we need the phonics of finance, but we also need to learn how to understand finance, comprehend it, that we can use it in the real world. So that's what you're saying. It has to go to another level where we learn how to use a dollar.
But even more than that, Brother Muhammad, is dealing with the insecurity and the ignorance that fuels our spending. That is what's not being touched on.
Well, that's, as we said earlier, see, the less you have inside of yourself, the more you think you need outside of yourself to make yourself feel like you are something. But if we began to really baptize our mind into a thorough knowledge of ourself and began to feed our mind scriptural wisdom about the greatness of the original people and the power we have, the fact that we are the direct descendants of God himself. We literally are children of the Most High God, born with God's genetic makeup, holy heredity, and divine DNA. Prosperity is built in our plasma. When you start learning the rich legacy of where we came from, not just historically, but scripturally, then you start operating in the world where you have so much inside of you that anything you add to the outside is just a bonus, but it doesn't define you as who and what you really are. This literacy thing, financial literacy, it is good, but it has to transfer into wisdom and understanding of finances. In my meta-analysis of over 100 books on finance and investment, etc., I found that white people teach their children not just financial literacy, but teach them financial understanding and financial comprehension. And the general rule that you'll find that most Caucasian and wealthy people teach their children is to follow what's called the 10-10-10-70 rule. 10% of your money you should give to a cause you believe in, charity. 10% of your money you should save, put it in a savings account for yourself. The other 10%, you should develop an investment fund to figure out how you can find something to make your money work for you instead of you working for your money. And then the rest of your life should be lived off that 70%. And I've also found that you'll see that wise people, they do not buy something once if they can't buy it twice. And if we started following that 10% charity, 10% investment fund, 10% saving, living off of 70%, not buying something once if we couldn't afford to buy it twice, we'll find that we are putting ourselves in a position where we always have cushion capital to deal with the problems of life, and we will not be engaged in this excessive unnecessary toil that comes from poverty. We'll be able to have a freer mind, less stress, and be able to have access to our creativity, find our purpose, fulfill our purpose, and get some real joy and happiness out of life.
Fight, you need to talk about this cushion and how it minimizes stress. That's like the most important thing with your bread. Like, you have to always have a cushion because it keeps your stress level down.
That's right. You have to buy peace. Buy yourself some peace. See, the excessive toil that comes from poverty produces an undue amount of worry and pressure on your mind about what's going to happen today or tomorrow. And that's the difference really between life's negatives being defined as either a problem or a situation. See, if you have one of life's issues that show up that cost $1,000 to repair and you got $10,000 put up, that's not a problem. It's just a situation. But if you've got $1,000 issue of life that shows up that you need to repair and you only have $800, that's not a situation. Now you got a problem. So the blessing of resources is not what you can get with it that you want. The blessing of resources is not having to worry about fixing whatever you need to fix when you need to be able to do so. So, that's what cushion capital is. And I learned that from that meta-analysis. And I've tried to operate where I set aside resources so that when a circumstance does show up, even if I don't have it in my operational budget to handle it, I'll borrow money from myself at no interest and pay myself back. And keep it moving. So that's a mathematical equation. We have the dollars, but we don't have the cents. Do you know that with $1.3 trillion, we are richer than Spain and Mexico? Spain has 46 million people just like us, but they're maintaining a 208,000 square mile landmass where they have their own educational system, their own government. They have their own world with the same amount of people we have with $600 billion less money. Mexico, $637 billion is what they bring in a year. But they're maintaining a 761,600 square mile landmass with 130 million people. Now, they're not living up to the standard that you might want to live up to. But don't tell me that they got 3 times the amount of people as us and half the money, and they have their own nation. We got double their money and only literally a third of their population. What should we be able to do for ourselves? We should stop, Brother Linton, spending so much time trying to repair the system. And let's take the resources that God gave us in our capital and in our wisdom, marry them together and stop trying to repair, and let's do our job to replace. That's what God wants us to do. He doesn't want us to keep on fighting to repair a system. He wants us to take ownership, leadership, rulership, and replace it with something better.